Okay, I think we can start. Thank you, everybody, and welcome to today's edition of the Boardroom and Knowledge Academy Initiative. Today, we'll be discussing extensively, I hope time permits us, the role of technology in the transformation of outdoor advertising globally and then in Nigeria. We'll try as much as possible to fit this into 60 minutes, and max, if we have to flow, we get to 90. Our guest speaker today, we have a very special guest at the house. He's the technology champion at the Broadsign, covering Europe and Africa, in the person of Miguel Castanon. Miguel, I hope I didn't murder your name. Welcome, Miguel, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Chinonso. It's a pleasure. Hello, everybody.
Okay. To provide some bit of local context to conversations here, we have a media consultant who is very seasoned and is a founder of OH Academy. His name is Kingsley Onwukaeme. Kingsley, thank you for joining us and welcome to today's edition.
Thank you, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here today once more. Thank you, guys.
And my name is Chinonso Atuegwu. I'll be driving to this conversation, and hopefully within the next 60 minutes or thereabouts, we'll have a fruitful conversation around the role of technology in transforming out-of-home advertising in Nigeria and globally. Before we start, just a bit of ground rules. First off, we expect this to be very interactive. People who have questions, who have comments to make, we expect you to drop them using the chat box, and then we'll pick them up on the go. We'll also be happy to yield the mic to people who want to make comments or questions or have their voices heard, but we would prefer this to wait till a time that is most convenient towards the end of the program. And all of us, so we'll hear everybody out. Everybody who wants to talk, just indicate by raising your hand, and then you'll be queued to speak when it's your turn to speak. Before we start today's section, we have a special guest, like I mentioned. His name is Miguel, and then he's with the Broadsign, an out-of-home leader when it comes to technology. So we'll be giving Miguel the next 5 to 7 minutes to briefly speak to us, introduce himself, and Broadsign to us before we get into the conversations proper. So Miguel, over to you. Please, can we just have this in 5 to 7 minutes so that I can get the conversation started?
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Chinonso. And thanks everybody for attending. I'm very, very happy to be here, and it's a privilege to be part of this. Thanks also to Kingsley and the OH Academy for all the great work they're doing. And I'm very, very excited about the Lobmar Awards that are coming up. I think it's a vibrant moment and a very exciting moment for the out-of-home industry worldwide, but especially in places like Nigeria. And I'm very much looking forward to the awards and also to my first trip to Lagos and visiting the city and enjoying the country. Let me introduce myself very briefly. I am Miguel Castanon. I've been working in out-of-home industry for 12 years now, always on the technology side of business. I started my career at GCDecaux, Spain, and joined Broadsign 10 years ago. I'm Spanish. I'm based in Madrid. But it's very important to note that I do not support Real Madrid. I support Atlético de Madrid. People tend to confuse this when I talk about Madrid, but there's another major football team in town. So, actually, this is it. As Chinonso just mentioned, I want to give you a very brief overview of what Broadsign is. Broadsign is the global leader and technology partner for out-of-home, both digital and static companies. We are celebrating 20 years this year. We've been 20 years in the industry, and it's been a very exciting journey together with our partners. We've seen everywhere in the world the static assets being slowly or faster replaced by digital screens. We've accompanied all our customers throughout this journey and shared their burdens, their challenges, and be part of the success. Broadsign builds software, tools to support all the workflows media owners would need, from inventory management to sales, to bill posting, to reporting, to programmatic, to playout, to proof of performance. We power out-of-home displays in almost 100 countries, including Nigeria, and work with the best and largest out-of-home media owners in the world, the likes of JCDecaux or Prime Media. but also with over 400 small, medium, and large-sized companies in all verticals: large formats, billboards, street furniture, airports, retail, stations, subway networks, transit, shopping centers. As you probably realize, nowadays, out of phone is you can find a screen or an asset of some sort almost anywhere, including the toilet of a bar, perhaps. As I just mentioned, we turned 20 years old this year, and you can find a brief history of our company in our website. I actually recommend visiting our website strongly because there's a lot of information there. Here you can find a brief history of our 20 years in the business. But the website itself includes a lot of information, a lot of resources. I would recommend to check all the webinars, all the blogs materials, all the different articles and white papers that are generic to the industry. This is not sales material from Broadsign. This is educational materials that may be useful for you. So check the website. As I was saying, the industry has changed quite a lot. The last 20 years. This is not only something that has happened to our phone. Our lives have changed a lot in the last 20 years. All companies are undergoing a massive digital transformation processes. 20 years ago, there were barely any digital out-of-home screens. There were barely any smartphones. So when we started, almost all out-of-home was strictly static. And now we've seen a lot of digital screens deployed in many parts of the world. In this sense, also when smartphones and mobile data started being used massively and adopted, also that was a game changing for the industry. Please keep in mind that digitalization is not simply replacing static assets by screen. It impacts the whole organization, so that you need to work more intelligently, being more agile, more reliable, more smart. And the way we've been building our products at Broadsign is always based on the industry feedback, on what we hear from our customers. We understand their needs, their local challenges, and we keep innovating, but also supporting their existing workflows and requirements. Markets don't change overnight. The world has not changed overnight. And we work in very different places of the world, almost 100 countries, but we should all push to improve and grow and innovate. In a moment, we will be discussing a few trends that are pushing the out-of-home space forward and accelerating the growth of the industry. But first, a little bit more about Broadsign. What we've done these 20 years building our out-of-home platform to support the business both on the static and the digital side, and the last few years in the programmatic, all in a single integrated platform. Because that was one of the first key concepts that came up when we got into the business, an area of improvement, integration and automation. While historically the business out-of-home with just a few assets, the day-to-day could be managed with a notebook and a few phone calls. And in the notebook, you can keep track of the different billboards that have been sold, to who, and when do we post and when do we remove. But once the business scales up and you have a fair volume, it starts getting very complicated. Even managing Excel spreadsheets can also be complicated, with different people modifying the files or forgetting to enter the info because it comes in last minute. And this is only on the planning side of things, the planning challenges. It gets more complex when different teams, different roles within the organization, within the company, need to check all this information. We've seen plenty of companies not being integrated and selling certain billboards, posting different billboards, and invoicing the customer for different billboards. So this is because you don't have an integrated platform, an integrated view, a single place of truth of what's going on within the organization. Sales teams need to be able to check availability for any period fast. Visibility of the planning is instrumental, and building proposals on the fly fast, hitting your customers, the agencies and the advertisers with proposals, calculate pricing automatically based on whatever rate card applies, managing discounts and additional costs effectively. Operations teams need to have visibility on the work orders as soon as the campaign is confirmed, so that they can allocate the artwork, assign the designs to the phases and the schedule time, automatically generating the post orders. And Broadsign supports all this in a single place. We even built 10 years ago a simple mobile app available for Android and Apple, where the posting teams, the bill posters, receive the work orders with the locations of the assets. They have a nice map in this mobile app, and they have a picture of the billboard that they need to visit. And they also get a picture of the design that needs to be posted. So perhaps Coca-Cola is already being displayed and we need to post something else. And once you've done the work as a bill poster in the field, you take a picture. And this picture updates the main server so that everybody knows that, okay, this campaign has already been posted. And this picture can also be used as proof of performance that you can share with the advertiser, proof of posting. We call this mobile app, post app. And of course, it also works without internet because sometimes asset billboards may be in the middle of nowhere with no internet connectivity. But the moment that the cell phone is connected to the internet again, it will update everything, upload the pictures, etc. But these are just a few examples. There is so much more to it, to the platform. It's evolved a lot throughout the years, especially on the sales side. We all want, and all our customers want to attract more revenue. And our customers have been pushing us for more flexibility on their sales products. And for these flexibility demands from some of the markets, we've improved our optimization engines throughout the years. They also ask for ways to increase their revenues, attracting new money. So 6 years ago, we pioneered on the programmatic trading for digital out-of-home. Our programmatic marketplace connects your digital out-of-home inventory, your screens, with the buying tools used by the agencies and advertisers, national and international, so that programmatic allows you to attract brands and investments from other advertising mediums like TV or online advertising, thanks to our connections with the buying tools that are already used to buy online advertising. At the same time, they can buy digital out-of-home advertising using the same pipeline, the same budgets, the same language. Because for us, in Broadsign, being an industry player, competition is not amongst the different media owners. You don't compete amongst each other. Of course, you do a little bit, but the main competition is the different advertising mediums. It's TV, it's online advertising budgets, it's even radio or press. All the different advertising mediums is what we need to increase the pie for out of home, and then we can fight amongst ourselves for the new big pie. That is what Broadsign is aiming for. Without the proper tools, being flexible and supporting all these different types of sales, accommodating different types of demands from the market, requires too much manual work. And manual work typically leads to human errors. You consume a lot of time and money doing things manually. But thanks to automated and integrated tools like Broadsign, you can accommodate different types of sales efficiently. Efficiency also being a key concept and a huge part of what we do, streamlining processes, modernizing the workflows, dedicating less resources to operate the business, and allowing you to focus on other tasks. And of course, another concept that we hear a lot, and we've been developing tools to this end, is transparency. You need to build trust among your buyers for them to keep coming back and also to attract others. Thanks to tools like the bill posting post app that I just mentioned that can be used to provide proof of posting, proof of performance pictures with a timestamp, which is a certificate that you know exactly when the picture was taken and where, at which time and where. This is something that the agencies and advertisers value a lot because it increases the trust and it's more transparent. And also programmatic that we will be discussing more tomorrow today. It's extremely transparent. Thanks to the connection with the buying tool used by the buyer can keep track of how the campaign is delivering, where this is playing, how many people are being impacted. So the programmatic model is definitely very transparent and builds trust. So why Broadsign? Yes, a little bit more on us. As a leader in the out-of-home industry, we have the privilege of working with the biggest out-of-home publishers in the world. We listen so that we can stay ahead of the curve and share this knowledge with all of our customers. Everybody has access to the same functionality. What do we believe in? Broadsign was built from the ground up, and we've built with digital out-of-home as know-how in mind. We've built the most robust CMS, content management system in the industry, 20 years of development, a lot of features, very comprehensive. We built it with only out-of-home workflows in mind. We didn't take a generic tool that was originally designed to simply plain content and try to build out-of-home workflows on top of it. We designed it from scratch to this end. We provide solutions for both digital out-of-home and static out-of-home. Solutions for traditional types of buying, like frequency-based in placing a loop, or more advanced types that we are seeing these days, like impression-based selling, audience-based selling, share of voice, takeovers, solutions for guaranteed campaigns, non-guaranteed campaigns, programmatic campaigns, campaigns booked months in advance, or accommodating a last-minute big campaign that will require a lot of manual work and reshuffling to accommodate without the adequate platforms. Broadsign is the only platform that lets you say yes to your customer, however, wherever, and whenever they want to buy. Without using natively integrated products, you can help, but have a few blind spots in your operation. Having full control and visibility over your entire network and every campaign playing is the only way to know for sure if you're not getting the most out of your network. Broadsign, as a company, we employ more developers and engineers than any other out-of-home company in the world. We are the only SOC 2 certified platform. This is one of the strongest security audits for software in the world. And we are obsessed, as you are, about making sure you deliver a smooth, seamless, and transparent customer experience. Finally, the best way to maximize value of your asset is to maximize the demand for it. Your out-of-home technology partner should provide your sales team with the flexibility to sell each impression to the advertiser willing to pay the most for it. Media owners should be able to contribute to wow moments for their advertiser. Out-of-home is no longer a passive media, and you should leverage data and technology to make ads both contextually relevant and unforgettable. Working with the biggest players in the out-of-home space for 20 years means that our customers come to us with the desire to do something different. That also means that we, as Broadsign, sometimes will come to you with something you should be doing differently. We need to push each other if we want to future-proof our respective businesses and the future of out-of-home. While, of course, the world doesn't change overnight, plenty of our customers are still undergoing the digital transformation of their companies and markets. And with Broadsign, we support the way you work today and the way the world will work tomorrow, everything in a single place. Regarding the platform itself, I would be more than happy to demo it privately and show you how we can assist your business, like we do for hundreds of similar media owners around the world. Please feel free to reach out to me directly. You have my contact details, and I'll be happy to do you a demonstration and show you the different functionalities in the platform. You can now see a quick. Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you. This is Nonso. So I was just going to say that since you are planning to come to Nigeria very soon, so there will be a lot of time for us to go deep into Broadsign and what the offerings are. So just get into the conversations as quickly as possible. Anyways,
absolutely.
Thank you very much for the very detailed and insightful presentation you've just given us. I'm sure a lot of us would reach out to you privately, but it must be a pain for you supporting the losing side of Madrid. But that's
Go Atletico.
For later.
Okay, so whoever wants to hear more, sorry, Nonso about that, I got overexcited. Yes, let's open the floor to debate and let's get the conversation started.
Okay, so we'll just go right into it because we're really running very badly with time. First off, we need to talk about the evolution we are talking about. There's a bit of evolution going in. Before we talk about how technology will impact the practice of outdoor advertising in Nigeria and the world. It will be right to, first of all, acknowledge the fact that the concept of location marketing as it is, it's a bit new. And I know that a lot of us on the call, it's alien to us what location marketing is. Can you quickly, in 1 to 2 minutes, just probably with crystal clarity, describe the concept of location marketing and how it works, just quickly, please.
Okay, by the way, there are different definitions for location-based marketing. For me, it's the evolution of out-of-home advertising by using data and being more focused on the location and the context on what you're doing. Historically, you can just sell a different volume of faces of billboard without relying on this sort of information, which is the data that is behind the locations themselves. There's a lot of business people that have a very good instinct to understand where a nice screen or a nice billboard should be installed, but backing all this up with data so that campaigns can be built around data, around the location. If you have a billboard in front of a shopping center, that's near a point of sale. So that has a different marketing strategy. It's not just another billboard. It's a billboard in front of a shopping center. If it's in an airport, it's a different approach. And you have a lot of data to back this up. This is very simply how I would approach location-based marketing. Perhaps Kingsley wants to elaborate?
Okay, Kingsley, just for some local context, Kingsley, we hear about a lot of changes and evolution happening in the industry as it is globally. How much of this shifts are we currently witnessing in the market locally in Nigeria? And then it will also be great if you can point us towards the the direction of some of the challenges you think are slowing down this adoption in Nigeria, if there's any. Kingsley, quickly, please.
Okay, so thank you, everyone. Let me start by saying that just as the global market is evolving, Nigeria is not left behind. We've been evolving. Okay, we've been evolving. And if you want to look at it from this perspective, as far back as the 90s and the 1950s or something, and 90 for something, when wooden structure was being used as a structure in terms of the physical assets. Right now, we transit into this use of metals and the ironwork and the rest of life. So the same way we've been evolving across the markets, across the every areas of out advertising in the Nigerian markets, matching up with global markets. Now, talking about the technological in terms of the new tech we are facing right now, Nigeria is trying to catch up. In the location-based marketing, we've moved, as we move from OOH to outdoor, from outdoor advertising to OOH, now in location-based marketing. It's already evidence showing in some of the execution and some deployment that we see happening these days. Example is your mall, right? Now, you have some people who are focused in more assets. They focus on those locations. You have people who are focused even in more radios and the rest alike. Now, what we're in the Nigerian market is already adopting a lot of these changes, and this is showing. But at the same time, we're still not there yet. We're still not there yet. And a lot of things that you asked, there's some factors which are slowing us down. All right. And some of those factors are external, and some of them are internal, and some of those are personal slowed. So in terms of talking about the digital aspects, in terms of digital screens aspects, one of the challenges we have in the Nigerian market is power sector, right? These are part of the challenge we have in the Nigerian market, power sector. Now, also the cost implication of setting up this structure is also something else that is also slowing us down. Imagine you putting so much amount of money setting up an LED structure in a strategic location. Now, over 2, 3, 4 years, you're not even seeing return on investment. It discourages a lot of persons. Yeah. So now we have issues of clients even adopting new ideas. That's another challenge we have. These things are slowing down how we are adapting with speed, right? You bring some new ideas to a client today because they want to stick to what they've been doing before. They would rather tell you, give me a board here, give me a board the other place. At the end of the day, we still stick around the whole issue of being where we are. But notwithstanding, our guys in the industry, I give kudos to everyone. They're trying their best to make sure we're matching the global space. You can see the newly from the LED side, there was a programmatic campaign that was run by Prime Media last year. From I think Brosine did that execution from a DV60 from
Google. Google DV60 was the buying tool. Yeah.
Yeah, so we're doing a lot of things. We have International Channel who is trying to drive data into the market. We have Candle. We have, in fact, the latest one we have, which is at the airport, which is your, what's it called? Our anamorphic structure that has been set up. So in terms of assets and structures, we are there. We're Nigeria, we're doing well. Let me just use that word, we are doing well. I give everybody, I say everybody well done to that. But in terms of one of the things that are slowing us down also is regulatory hurdles, right? You can see which we had in Kaduna with the state government. It was a challenge to the market. Imagine the setback it has given to that state in terms of our growth, right? Now, talking about the programmatic Miguel was talking about, we also have little challenges also in our side of markets through the vetting process. So a vetting that takes you to fastest you can get is 8 hours, right? 8 hours. And why you want to deploy a campaign speedily or speed up a campaign deployment, it slows down. But there should be a time. Tech has made everything easy for us to be able to vet our materials within the shortest period of time. And these things are there, but regulatory hurdles are also part of the thing. Then one of the challenges is internal for us is adoption. We are slow with adoption. Now, let me start by saying that we need to do more by organizing conferences, workshops to match and take learnings from the global markets, right? But one of the things, again, we find out that most of our people, even attending some workshops and attending and getting some knowledge, putting it into practice is a problem. I can make an example of the last location intelligence workshop we had, right? How many people are putting it into work? How many people are using it to do their job? Talking about this, so these are part of things that is slowing us down in terms of catching up with the global market. But in terms of structure, it's there, but the processes we are still slowing down. I think that is my contribution at this point in terms of the Nigerian market.
Thank you very much, Kingsley. I acknowledge the fact that there are people in the industry currently, young, old, middle-aged, who are agile, who are trying to do their best to move the industry forward, despite all the challenges we face. So that takes me to my next point. I didn't hear you say that, but the prominence of data. Since we are moving from buying locations to now buying audiences, data and audience marketing, audience buying, to me, seem like Siemens twins that can't be separated. And I know for sure in Nigeria, there's a gap with data. So I want to ask Miguel, is there any way technology can help improve collection of data, processing of this data, and then application of the data globally? Any global case studies, any insights you can share to the Nigerian market?
Absolutely. This has been a challenge worldwide. It may have happened earlier. Some markets are more mature than others. Same as adoption. You guys are not the only ones suffering this. People everywhere tend to try to work the same way that we've been working this way for the last 20 years. Why do we need to change the way we work? Reluctancy to change is very human. But yes, data is instrumental for technology to work. In order to basically to sell audiences, you need to have a way to count how many people are exposed to the digital asset or the static billboard or the static bus shelter or wherever the poster is posted. In this sense, some more mature markets, they have national associations that collect data on behalf of every single media owner. So unity, working together as an industry will reduce costs. What we see also a lot is some markets where every single company has a different data provider. I'll name a few ways of gathering data. So historically, it was based on surveys. People just sent a bunch of students for a full week. They put them in front of the billboard or the digital screen, and they were counting how many people were there throughout the week. This, the largest media owner in Germany, this is the main method they were using until very, very recently when they started using mobile data. Now, every one of us carries a smartphone, a mobile phone of some sort, and they can track us. They can keep track of how many people are in front of this asset or drive. If you drive and you use Google Maps or Waze, that sort of data, it's something that can be used for out of home. So you can get a mobile data provider and they can sell you this type of data. Sometimes it's expensive, sometimes you need to get together as an industry. Other types of data, very, very popular. And for example, I know in Nigeria, it's already being used. It's installing cameras facing the opposite direction from the billboard of the screen or whatever. In this sense, the cameras are counting how many cars and how many people passed in front of the screen. They have dwell time because of the amount of time that the people are exposed. And that sort of data is actually pure gold. Of course, you need to invest in cameras, but that's a first-party data because you own that data. You don't rely on third parties. You install your own cameras. Companies like AdMobilize or Quibidi do an excellent job for this, and those are technology partners of Rothschild. What else? In indoor venues, it's outdoor. Out of home, it's not only outdoor anymore. It's also if you are inside a mall or a shopping center, sometimes they have visitors or ticketing information. If you are inside an airport or a train station or a bus station, the passengers, sometimes the landlords, the venue owners have an understanding of how many visitors, how many customers has inside the mall. So that type of audience data also works very well. You need to find some sort of audience data partner. It doesn't need to be mobile or super evolved. The most advanced countries in the world don't do, for example, real-time data yet. They are based on historical models. So every Tuesday of July, we get this amount of people within the mall. It doesn't need to be extremely accurate, but having an approximate idea has been game-changing for the industry because, as Chinonso was saying, we are moving away from selling assets to selling audiences. Coca-Cola wants to impact 1 million people. You need to have a way to confirm to Coca-Cola that displaying your ad here, 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 and here will sum up to impacting 1 million people. So yeah, data is instrumental. Options, mobile data, cameras, surveys, national organizations, ticketing information, passenger count, traffic count. Sometimes the administrations, the local governments may have some sort of information on how the cars move around the city. And you need audience data in order to go programmatic. Programmatic will only accept audience as a currency. You cannot sell locations, you can only sell audience, impressions, people impacted.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much, Miguel. Kingsley, just to over to you quickly. I hear Miguel mention the laundry list of data sources. He mentioned national associations, telcos, counting cameras. What is exactly the state of data collection, processing, and application in the market at the moment?
The truth is that individuals are trying, but I think it's a question of an association. We need to come from holistic and as a group, because this issue, just like he said, there's an association for data collection that's everybody just key into. The question is, which of them do we have in Nigeria? And we don't. People like International Channel came as an independent body to try to see if they can drive this data collection of a thing, and it was also not easy for them, right? I think Kando was trying to do their own thing and all those stuff. But what we are right now is that we don't have a centralized body that can help us do this thing, and until we be able to create that a one body, one source as an industry, we will still be struggling with this data of a thing. Now, a lot of data is everywhere, it's hanging everywhere, right? It's just there. It's a matter of how to be able to collect these things and put them together and make meaningful decisions, meaningful insight out of this data. That is the problem. For us, for now, in the markets, we are still not there yet. A lot of persons are trying their hands individually. A lot of companies are trying their hands individually, but we're not getting there. So by the time we come as an association, let me talk about association. By the time the association and the regulatory body come together to tackle this thing, what it means is that even they'll be able to work in partnership with the NDPC, right? To be able to see how they can be able to have access to data and to what level of data can we have. A lot of data, like I said, are hanging out there. We have the FRSC data that is out hanging there. NPC data is hanging out there. We have our traffic data, even for last mile and Lagos State, traffic data is there, and other states as well. We have individual billboards counting their traffic. Now, until we have one body that is able to collect all this data on houses under one place, so that when we're doing our plan and trying to convince a client on deliverables and on our deliverables and the opportunity to reach high number, we'll be able to tap for a source and a recognizable source. That source we're tapping into is where that credibility of our work can now be sellable in the market. But for right now, where we are still a little bit backwards. And I know that some other foreign partners are trying to gain access to the market to be able to help us get there. While they are trying to come in to help us, we also locally need to see a way to balance this thing. And so when they come in, they're only keen into what we're doing. Nobody will solve our problem for us. Until we take it as a group, as a body, and chase it, it will be difficult for individual, because they say when you have a bunch of broom, you'll be able to make more impact than when you single broomstick want to make an action. So I think right now, we're still not yet there in terms of data collection. Until we work as a body, we won't be there.
Thank you very much, Kingsley. Thank you, Miguel. So I hear you say that data sets are sitting in silos. Different individual media vendors, I hear, now have traffic counts on their individual billboards to deliver numbers for their billboards. However, for clients, this might not sit well, because a client is looking at a plan holistically and needs to have the data somewhere. So the core is to the association body, O1, and a couple of other industry leaders to come together. There's a bit of lack of synergy and cohesion. If we come together, we should be able to surmount this challenge. Still on data, while we are very excited about data and what it can do for us, we should also be wary of the fact that there are very critical privacy and ethical concerns around the use of data. Just most recently, Nigeria signed the Nigeria Data Protection Regulation into law. The NDPR is now into full force. The guys in telco and banking are already feeling the heat for that. And very soon, a lot of sectors like ours would get the heat as well. So it won't be long before they catch up with us. So my question to Miguel, based on industry best practice globally, are there steps to take to ensure that we manage this data in a way that is ethically correct as it relates to data. So we don't use people's data, we don't abuse people's data, basically. Is there anything we need to do from a global perspective?
Yes, absolutely. In 20 years, we've noticed the same happening in many countries. At the beginning, it was the Wild West. There was no data privacy almost anywhere in the world. And then soon some governments started realizing they needed to protect us as citizens. So that, for example, I mentioned the cameras. In theory, you're not allowed to just simply record you, and that they know that Miguel, that is 40 years old and has a beard, and they can impact me on advertising. It's all about aggregating data. They can build audience profiles, and that's sort of allowed in most countries, but it's not a specific one-to-one targeting. But on top of that, when we think about audience data, we tend to think also about the behavioral data, the sort of thing that we get in the internet when we are browsing and we're impacted by online advertising. This is something that is also changing drastically because the cookies are disappearing, basically. There's the crumbling of the cookie, as they call it, and Google will no longer support third-party cookies. Apple doesn't, Firefox doesn't, other browsers don't. So the online advertising ecosystem is about to change. What's good about out-of-home is that it's not only about behavioral data. We need to understand, for example, contextual data. Contextual data is where's the screen located. It's not so much about the individuals in front of the screen, it's about what's happening around the screen. The most traditional example for this would be the weather campaign. So we should be smart, and if it's very sunny, we can run an ad, a Coca-Cola ad where the lady is wearing a bikini and sunglasses. But if suddenly it starts raining, the screen can immediately change to a different copy, different video, or different image where the lady will be wearing an umbrella. So this sort of contextual data is something that we should also benefit from. Day parting data. Day parting is we know that different times of the day we're impacting different people. That sort of data is also free, public. It cannot be, it doesn't impact privacy. Of course, privacy is important, but day parting, what I mean here is that during the mornings, we get some type of audience. At the afternoons, we get a different type of audience. During lunchtime, during the weekends, during the nights, a Friday night. So playing with all those different segmentations doesn't impact the privacy of the citizens, but it's allowed and is very impactful. So there are different data sources that will never be impacted by this sort of laws like the NDPR that you were mentioning. What we noticed globally is that since all these privacy laws were approved, there's a shift into using all the types of data, funding all the data sources that are not impacted by this.
Thank you very much. Moving away from data now. So
So do you want me to chip in something? Like there's something, yeah. So what's Miguel just said, I just want to see how to sit it out here, to sit it locally here, right? So if you look at it very well, you see that there are some data, like you just rightly mentioned, that it doesn't, that's there are contextual data, right? And that is why we say that we've moved away from the structure planning, that is the pivot planning, to audience planning and the location marketing. And there are a lot of data that is hanging there that we could actually use to plan. And I think this is part of things we did last time when we did location intelligence workshop. We tried to tell us that there's some free data that we have there. Sorry, can you hear me? Someone is saying you can't hear me. Can you hear me, right?
I can hear you.
Yeah. Okay, fine. Sorry. So last workshop we did, which was on LIW, that's a location intelligence workshop we did, and it was mentioned that we had to focus and see how we can leverage the available free data from Google for our planning. Now, let me just, for the sake of those that didn't attend that workshop, if you want to, first of all, understand the location, by plotting the GPS coordinates of that on a Google map, which is free, which is what you use to drive home from work and other things. For plotting your Google GPS coordinates of where the site is, you could pop up and you ask what kind of businesses can be found in that area, what kind of activities happens in that area. These are data that you can actually use that will help you to make an informed decision when you're doing your plan. Now, for instance, when you talk about location-based in terms of some convergence points, rather, example is the malls. When you click its location, it will tell you the dwell time, which is the peak hour, what are the average hour people spend there. And these are the only available data that is very free and for everyone to see, that we're not even leveraging right now, right? If you go to your Google map, you have a typical traffic and you have your live traffic. The typical traffic is to tell you this particular location, this is what the traffic is like on a typical Monday or a typical Tuesday or a typical Wednesday. So if you are running an LED campaign, for instance, and you can't even do programmatic, you can say, because the traffic is high on Monday, Wednesday, Saturday, or whatever days are, and the time, you can actually say, because of the typical traffic sales, these are the peak time for these locations. I want my campaign to come up within this period on this location. So already we have free data that are there right now for us to start using, instead of waiting until we get the whole post-campaign data to run analysis. Right now, for contextual data, we can use that right now. And I just want to bring that home to our local markets. That's Google is there. You can use that a lot now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Kingsley. While we're talking about data, because a lot of data will make our bag heavy. However, we need to also be careful how we use data. Reason I'm saying this is because of precise targeting. One edge I know that digital advertising has over every other channel to date is the fact that it can be personalized, it can be precise. So my question is, how is the industry globally closing this gap, especially in out of home, where precise targeting is still, to me, best of my knowledge, is still a bit novel, still not settled down in the market at the moment. So I'm asking, Miguel, is there any way the market, because on digital, you can track who you're sending your message to, you can track conversion, you can even track up until sales. Is there a way in out of home practice, especially when we are talking about location marketing, is there a way to ensure that the right audience receives your message on out of home?
Yes, there is answering very straightly in that sense, but I want to explain a caveat in a moment. Answering the question first, yes, hyper-targeting is now a reality. It depends on your data source. It depends on the quality of your data, but you can, for example, without getting into mobile data, imagine that in an airport, you have a screen and an airplane lands from China and you have a product that you want to impact Chinese tourists or Chinese citizens. You can very easily put a video or an ad that is it's written in Chinese, and you know that you are impacting Chinese people. And perhaps there's a shop right beside there, and you can push them into that direction, and you can track the cell phones that get into the shop. Or perhaps you tell them to connect to our website, and you can track the cell phones that are connecting to that website. This is hyper-targeting in a simple way. Basically with the cell phones, but we discussed privacy a moment ago. So right now it's unclear how much of the mobile data or behavioral data will be available for sale now with the privacy laws. But in theory, technically, and in some markets where they don't have strict privacy restrictions, you can basically target anybody on a cell phone. And you can track where that cell phone goes. So if you're saying, hey, visit this McDonald's, and that cell phone ends in the McDonald's, you know the cell phone was impacted by that screen and ended up in a McDonald's. So that sort of hyper-targeting can be done. But my caveat, for me, out-of-home industry is a one-to-many medium. People are very excited about reaching specific audiences. But what we saw when this model started to be possible is that a lot of brands, especially the online brands that you were mentioning, Chinonso, used to the type of ecosystem that they have on internet advertising, they were asking, okay, I only want to impact Chinese citizens, for example. And you can tell me how many Chinese people were exposed to my campaign. Media owners should defend this and say, okay, you can pay a premium for Chinese people, but you're going to pay me for everybody who sees the ad. Because there is not a way in out of home where only your target can see the ad. Everybody gets to see the ad. In online, in a cell phone, only you see, and you are impacted by yourself. In this case, there's a chance that there's an ad that is designed for Miguel, and I will see it. But everybody that is sitting there waiting for the train with me or driving past the highway, they will also see it. And I think we should charge for everything. Out of home is a one-to-many medium. It's not specialized on hyper-targeting. There's a space, there's room for hyper-targeting and doing this type of targeting campaigns without charging a premium. But the one-to-many impacts branding, impacts the upper part of the funnel. Of course, everybody wants to converse and get the ROI, and we can do that type of campaigns too. But don't forget about where we come as a medium, which is branding, which is the reach. A lot of people will see out-of-home advertising. They don't need to buy immediately. Perhaps they see an advertising of a car, but they're not planning to buy a car until next year. But the brands, the automobile brands that are and running the ads, they get their marketing value back. They are impacting the upper part of the funnel, and they get the branding and the recognition of the brand. It's not about ROI, immediate selling. Sometimes it's more about a midterm or a long-term investment. But yes, we can also do targeting and track the ROI and track that, hey, this guy was impacted to this campaign and ended up buying this product within 3 days. That technically can be done.
Thank you very much, Miguel. Kingsley, anything you want to add before we move to the next topic?
Okay, I think like you rightly said, so I think it is a call to action conversation, right? Be able to use a call to action, because if you don't put a call to action, you wouldn't know who has taken action or what you wanted to do, right? There are different ways. That is why we say that the outdoor ecosystem has evolved. It's no longer about structure. We have things like your NFC, your QR codes, and the rest are like that we embed on some of our platforms and to drive engagement. So driving engagement helps us to be able to track who has been reached and who has been who has interacted with the campaign. Just the way you use your digital to check who has clicked on it, who has viewed the message or whatever it is on any of the social media platform. The same way we have to also embed a tracking means, which is some using the QR code, using special promo codes, and the rest are like to see engagement. So it's not only through data and all those things that we can get a precision targeting. We can actually use some of some basic ways to be able to track our campaign. So while we're waiting for that level to get there, we can start using this little avenues to be able to track whatever we're doing.
Thank you very much, Miguel. I'll just come back quickly to you. While Kingsley was talking, he mentioned something really interesting. He mentioned QR codes, NFC, and the likes of them. So we know that the biggest encroacher across all touch points is mobile devices. It's affecting TV, it's affecting radio, it's affecting everything. It's including out of home. So my question will be to you, with this encroachment ongoing, because there's been an argument as to the attention span of people who are on the road actually to view out of home when they had mobile devices. So my question will be, how do you think out of home can easily turn this encroachment into a strength? Maybe by the use of innovations that Kingsley just mentioned, NFC, QR codes. How do you think we can do this?
Yes, what Kingsley just talked about, actually excellent points, because there are easy ways also to get some return, to measure some call to action, some return on investment, visit the website or get this promo code thanks to the QR. But answering your question, yes, definitely out of home and mobile advertising, internet advertising complement each other very well. There is a lot of research which says that campaigns that running only, I don't have my data right here, but I'll happy to share the articles after the call, that if you run a campaign only on the online, you impact 50%. If you run a campaign only in out of home, you impact 60%. If you run it in both mediums at the same time, they complement each other and the impact is multiplied by 3 or something like that. I don't have my data here, but there is definitely a major impact if you combine both the out of home and the mobile thing. Something that I like a lot about anamorphic contents and all these wow campaigns that we are seeing lately in super spectacular screens is that people take pictures with the mobile and then it goes viral. At the beginning, it was only an out-of-home ad, but the moment that somebody takes a picture and posts, does a social media post in Instagram, in Facebook, somewhere else, then it goes viral and you get the double impact. The out-of-home impact, people passing by, and also everybody that sees this in the social media or in the news or in Twitter or wherever. But especially what it's, in my opinion, more important about the combination of mobile and out-of-home is programmatic. For those of you who are not really aware of what programmatic is the way that internet and mobile advertising is bought and sold in 90% of the cases. At the beginning, when internet started, if all of us visited YouTube, we will all see the same advertisement. Nowadays, the chances that everybody here in this panel today will visit the same website and we see the same ad is impossible. Basically, we're going to see very different things, especially me, for example, being in a different country. So this is programmatic buying, basically, so that ads are served automatically and there's a lot to it. Anyhow, what we did with programmatic for out of home is connecting with the ecosystem that is already being used for the last 20 years for buying internet, online advertising. So we connected your screens, out-of-home screens, with the buying tools and the advertising ecosystem that allows you to buy mobile campaigns. For example, Kingsley mentioned at the beginning that we did a campaign in Nigeria, actually across multiple countries in Africa, using Google, using DV360. DV360 is a tool used to buy online campaigns in Google's website, so well, in Google inventory. And this in this same tool that has been used for the last 20 years, being actually the largest marketplace in advertising across all mediums, Google is, using the same platform, they could buy out-of-home screens. And it was an omni-channel campaign. Omni-channel means that they were buying mobile and out-of-home at the same time, in the same tool, with the same budgets. With just a few clicks, they can easily combine out-of-home advertisements with mobile advertisement. So for me, that's one of the major beauties of programmatic, is the ability to attract the online budgets, the online brands, advertisers that typically don't advertise on out-of-home, but are already using Google or any of the buying tools for internet. They can easily say, hey, now I can actually run my campaign also in digital screens. And I like this because typically I wanted to impact, I don't know, students. And now I see that there's some, instead of using targeting websites with the students, I can target screens that are nearby schools and nearby universities and colleges. So that sort of thing, making it easy for them, and also all the data. That's what they care about. They only buy audiences. They want to impact people. So speaking the same language and connecting to the same buying tools makes the omni-channel experience, the combination of both out-of-home and mobile, very efficient. And it's a major trend globally. It's already 20–30% of the digital out-of-home market in many countries. And we hope to see this exploding in Nigeria very, very soon, in the same way that we're seeing in other places in Africa.
Yeah, thank you. Kingsley, before I come to you to get your opinion, Miguel, you mentioned programmatic out-of-home, and I heard you mentioning a lot of screens, digital screens and all of that. What is the fate of static billboards? Because Nigeria as a market, we are still a major static market. Adoption is still a little bit slow. What is the fate of static when it comes to technology?
Okay, that's an excellent question. I come from the part of the business on static, and I love static assets. There is not a chance that the static will disappear, not remotely, not anywhere. Screens, digital out-of-home screens are far more profitable. That's a fact. But nobody's going to replace every single static asset and every single bus shelter or billboard or whatever by screens. So being able to sell and manage your static inventory also effectively, we have a lot of tools and functionality, especially in the back office, but also in the way you package your offering and the way you can very easily, as for example, Kingsley was mentioning earlier, the different locations that you have GPS positions for every single asset, and you can group them based on different districts, different areas, different criteria. So you want to impact the students, you only select the static assets near colleges and universities or nightlife areas. You want to impact a different target, I only want to buy the static assets near gas stations because I want to advertise whatever product. That sort of thing, there's a lot that can be done with the static. But it's true that although digital screens have a hardware cost, and initially there must be an investment, screens are far more profitable, and that's why we see such a large adoption worldwide. We have a major network in Germany that have 6,000 screens, but they also have 4 million static assets. They will never replace 4 million screens. That's too much cost, and it's not even worth it. Their screens only make sense in special places, high profile most of the times, where you can benefit from the flexibility. Advertisers may want to keep on buying a static billboard because you get 100% of the visibility. Typically on a screen, you will be playing a little bit in the morning, a little bit in the afternoon, a little bit in the evening. Sometimes you want to be there 100% of the time. So static assets are not going anywhere. Everybody's also trying to replace some of the most premium sites, but the rest of the static inventory, which is counted by the thousands of millions worldwide, will never be replaced, and we have tools to get the best out of it. Because it's true, Chinonso, you were just mentioning that there's a lot of focus in the industry on the digital thing because it's a sexy, shiny asset, but static is not going anywhere, and you need to come up with more efficient and more smarter ways of selling and operating those assets.
Thank you very much, Miguel. So Kingsley, I'll back to you. You mentioned the NFC, you mentioned QR codes while you were talking the last time. We know for a fact that in the market, the trend is mostly to have out-of-home inventory by the roadsides, moving traffic and all of that. And you would agree with me that this inventory would not easily lend itself to some of these technology innovations you've mentioned. So what alternatives, in terms of that, what alternatives do we have as a market to explore in bridging this gap, knowing fully well that our inventory is almost majorly by the roadside and can't lend themselves to these innovations?
So I would say that outdoor platforms are not one size fits all, right? That's why we have different formats of outdoor. And these different formats we have address different kind of audiences and different kind of traffic and the kind of people, right? Now, and that is why we say that industry is evolving. Like we started from the concept of, like, again, let me just quickly drive back to the evolution we talked about. We started from the space of outdoor advertising as a concept. Then we moved to what is called out-of-home advertising as a concept. And now we're talking about location marketing and audience planning, right? So by implication, what it means is that the ecosystem has evolved. What we know, or what we used to focus on as a way of reaching our audience has changed. Most of them have improved, and then some have changed. And some of them, we have new formats and new platforms added. Quickly, to just touch what Miguel was saying earlier on, digital out-of-home is not wiping out static. It's only a complementation to what we have, right? Now, come back to the NFC. When you're planning, the first thing you need to do is that you need to, first of all, think about the audience. Audience knowledge is important. When you understand the audience you're planning, the next thing you now talk about is where can they be found? What kind of conversation they have where they are? What is their receptivity signal at that point in time, right? Now, in such locations, it now determines the kind of platform or the kind of assets you're going to use to reach them in that place. People who are always on their mobile phone, you can't be talking to a man who can't be trying to drive an engagement with someone who is walking or who is driving a car on the road. So that is why we now begin to think about what location can someone be receptive enough for this kind of messaging. And that is where we talk about confidence points, like your malls, your bars, your beachside, and the other locations around. So that's what places now you can begin to adopt this kind of engagement assets or platforms to them, using the NFC, using the QR codes, and the rest alike. So to bridge this gap, we need to first of all start adopting these ones at the locations, at the convergence points, and the realization spots, right? When we're able to do this, we're already bridging that gap of not leveraging this technology opportunity we have. Then with time, as we begin to find other technological solutions begin to come up, right? We will now begin to see how those ones can fit into the roadside conversation. But I have to know that because roadside is meant to target to people, is more of awareness and the search driving platforms, right? That is why they tell you that your message you have just 3 seconds to sell your message on roadside. All right. So these are different locations, and different locations, different of assets and different platforms to be able to use to reach them. So that's what I'm just trying to say is what I'm just trying to say is that NFC, QR codes, and other promo codes and the rest alike are not necessarily meant to be done on the roadside. There are places that these guys are receptive, which is your location-based environment. Now we can use them to reach them.
Thank you very much, Kingsley. I want to take a break at this point to acknowledge everyone who has stayed with us from the beginning up until this moment. I see all of you. It's good to have you here, and we hope that in the next few minutes we'll have your own input to the conversation. Moving on to something that scares me and puts me up at night. Artificial intelligence, Miguel. It is changing the world. It's changing banking. It's changing journalism. It's changing everything as we know it. Are we left out as a practice? Are we left in the cold? Your opinion, please.
Okay, first of all, I think we're just getting started. We are seeing the scratch of the iceberg with all this artificial intelligence thing. Historically, I mean, behind the scenes, a lot of the tools and the platforms that you're using nowadays already has some sort of AI running in the background. But it's obviously that we need to, in my opinion, let's just set us apart the existential risk questions. What's going to happen with our jobs, with our lives, with AI, strictly from an out-of-home perspective, from marketing perspective. I think AI ultimately is the route to ensure that campaigns are optimized and meet diverse KPIs from a media and a creative standpoint, so that you can deliver a higher impact, hyper relevance, targeting, and messaging. The sort of thing that very smart people do nowadays that have a great understanding on how to impact audiences. AI will probably soon take over that sort of role and will be able to design the best strategy. Hey, you need to buy this roadside billboard in specifically this kilometer and this other roadside billboard, and then buy a little bit here near the mall, and then invest a little bit on mobile phone campaigns and impact this type of audience, and they will create those type of audiences. We are not there yet, as far as I know. What I've seen that it's already being used widely in some places is the impact on the content creation itself. So something as simple as Kingsley was saying a moment ago, out-of-home typically has a diversity in formats. Not every single billboard is 8x3 or 4x3. There is different dimensions. And for the agencies and advertisers and the people who create content, sometimes it's a challenge to support different sizes and different dimensions. Now with AI tools, it's a 30-second thing. You can simply enter an image and you can tell them, hey, provide me 20 versions of this image, adapting to this format, this format, this format. And the AI will do it, boom, in a second. They can even build the content itself from scratch. Hey, Mr. AI, I want to create a design that includes a couple having dinner with 3 kids and whatever, and you can enter the text and it will build an image or a video for you. So I've heard that there's already in place, and some of these tools are actually free and you can test them online, a lot of things going on the content creation side. It's never as artistic as a real human, but it's getting there and it's extremely fast. So designers are already on top of this type of tools to ensure that they keep a job, that they still have a job going forward. But in other areas, it's in my opinion, it's still unknown how much it will impact. It will definitely impact our lives as we know them, but it should be under control and it should everything go around automation, efficiency, etc. Keep in mind that you can automate tasks, you can delegate tasks, but the strategy, that will always be human, in my opinion.
Thank you very much, Miguel. I'll just come right back at you. Kingsley, you have anything to say, or we'll move on to?
Yeah, so Miguel, I think let us not even say that it's too far. It's not far. I think AI conversation, why the name sounds, is just an adoption of a name, and I think why the name sounds so ambiguous, all these things. I think we're already experiencing it now, though. It's more or less like a location intelligence. All right. So if you look at it from the point of some contextual messaging targeting we have most times, we're already doing it. That's why some campaigns you see that the campaign that they ran, I think you put it on your presentation, that the kid, when the flight has to pass the billboard, they start pointing towards. That is artificial intelligence. That is artificial intelligence, right? So
have you done the other side?
Sorry. So that's artificial intelligence, okay? And look at a conversation where you have a billboard that has a sensor to understand when it's rainfall and when the weather has changed, when it's hot. And automatically it sends message to system to be able to trigger and change the creative automatically without someone touching it. Automatic messaging is already an artificial intelligence. So yeah, so Miguel, this is it. This is already AI for us. Why it has been run over years, it's just because right now it has begun to hit very heavy on the content sector, and we're not seeing that we're already using and leveraging this in the past. So while it's going to affect us more and improve what we do more in the future, but don't think it's too far. It's not far. We're already in it, and we're experiencing AI in our space already. What we call it is location intelligence, but it's already part of AI we're talking about.
It's a very fair point. As I was saying at the beginning, there's a lot of AI going already in the background, but it's been around for a while. It's now that the ChatGPT thing has created a huge hype, and the definition of AI may be a little bit broader, like Kingsley was saying. This campaign, yes, technically there is an AI lying in the background, but for me, what nowadays the term is more focused on they're going to replace humans, robots are going to take over. That sort of conversation, we are not there yet, but benefiting from the technology has been there for a while, and definitely it's something we shouldn't be scared and benefit from as much as possible, of course.
No.
Yeah.
It's quite comforting to know that we're not in the cold. That gives me a lot of comfort. The next other thing that has been a hard nut to crack in the Nigerian market, specifically, I would say, to the best of my knowledge, is the fact that we are still unable to measure and attribute the contribution of out of home to campaign success. Clients are still in the dark as to ROI for their investments in out of home. And this is what I see happening is that it's affecting the budget negatively. So when there's a marketing crisis, the first part of the budget that gets hit is the out-of-home budget, because every client or marketing director would want to, first of all, protect budget for channels that he or she can swear about their efficacy and efficiency. Because for digital, like I mentioned earlier, clients are able to track not just even conversion, but actual sales and retargeting. So it's a big conversation. Has there been any technological advancement in the world to measure, first of all, and then attribute out-of-home effectiveness? Miguel,
this is not strictly something that we do, because we work more on the media owner side, on the sales side. What we hear, and I've seen some research online, is that it's more from the brands themselves. So it's true what you're saying, Chinonso, it's also a global tendency. When marketing budgets are reduced, historically out of home was left out of the mix, the first. Because also, as I was saying earlier, it's more of a branding medium, it's more midterm and long-term historically. Now we can do targeting, now we can impact the conversion, the call to action, and we can impact ROI in a better way. How can this be measured? First of all, the brands need to measure the sales. Most brands will tell you that, hey, this didn't really have an impact, or most brands will not share with you their sales. The fact is that sometimes they sell more, sometimes they sell less. If they come back, Coca-Cola, they've tried this. They tried stopping advertising globally for a while. Sales dropped a lot, even though everybody knows what Coca-Cola is. If they don't advertise, then things don't flow. So the best data actually comes from your buyers, comes from the brands themselves that typically don't like disclosing how their sales are impacted by certain campaigns or not. But also thanks to mobiles, as we were discussing earlier, there are some challenges with this. This is why I don't want to be too precise on this, because now with the privacy thing and the cookies, it's unclear how things are going to be developed. But nowadays, it's possible to track a phone that got to see the ad and ended up in a shop buying a product, or a phone that got to see an ad in a roadside billboard, and then they connected to this website and bought a product through there. That type of conversion or putting together those two dots historically had never been possible, and now it's possible. You can count the cell phones that were more impacted by these out-of-home campaigns, and you know how phones are moving around, and you know what the assets are thanks to GPS. So the higher concentration areas with this type of phone end in this type of business. That sort of measurement is possible. It's not something that we do at Broadsign, to be honest, but I know other companies are doing. We have a partner that takes care of this sort of thing. So they measure for us some of our campaigns, and it always has a good impact. It always proves that people end up, there's a drive to store, there's this type of conversion. That's the sort of data that we are getting from mobile partners, and also from surveys, and also from some brands that are nice enough to share the sort of information, which typically they don't like sharing. That's my experience in some European markets.
Thank you very much, Miguel. I acknowledge the fact that we are running very tight on time, so we need to quickly round up and then give opportunity to people who have questions, comments to come on board. But before we go, Miguel, while we are still trying to play catch up with the present wind of transformation going on in the industry at the moment, we also need to be mindful of the fact that today was yesterday's future as well. And only those who were able to predict yesterday are enjoying today. It takes me to the big question of what are the trends and innovations that might shape the future of our business that we need to take note of today? Just quickly, please.
Okay, very quickly also a comment there. Different places, different countries, there's a different today, a different yesterday, and a different tomorrow. In your case, since I feel that you're a few years behind in some an adoption of some technology, we already know what's going to happen. It's going to be programmatic, it's going to be more digitalization, more flexibility. That this is your short-term future. Globally, I think AI, the rise of AI will definitely have an impact. I don't want to share my own views, but it will definitely impact somehow everything that we are doing today. Programmatic will become mainstream everywhere. Nowadays, programmatic, it's in some advanced markets, it's 20, 30, 40% of the market. It's going to be more than 50% the same way as it's for internet advertising. Hardware. We were saying that buying screens, investing in screens, it's typically very expensive. Prices are going to be reduced. We will see new technology. We will see a mass adoption because the hardware, LCD, LEDs, projections, holographic, that type of technology is going to become more affordable, the same way that a screen was extremely expensive 20 years ago. And now it's a little bit cheaper. Things will evolve into that direction. So China will give us a lot of cheap hardware that we can install in our streets, in our stores, everywhere else. And what else? I think the content will also be impacted. 3D, anamorphic, different types of holographic, wow, contents, explosive contents, very spectacular stuff from a creative perspective, powerful creatives. I think we will also see some interesting developments in that area.
Thank you very much. Kingsley, any local trends, any futuristic predictions that you want to make from a local perspective?
So I think not so much to add, but I think just like what Jonathan is saying, we are seeing a lot of trends that are just coming up gradually, and some of these trends are also localized. Okay, we're going to be seeing more of experientials, and what's it called? Structural wise, in terms of mode and the build structure, giving something that is disruptive because of the attention that is being given to mobile phone while people are moving. So you're going to be seeing a lot of disruptions in terms of execution and big structures, modes, and in fact, in general, alternative advertising is going to take up a lot of the market in the nearest future. And I see that coming up. And because the essence is to people to drive experience for the brand. And that is going to be good. And it's going to help us land the brand message locally. For Nigerian market specific, this is going to be a trend that people are going to drive. You could see what Moto Media and Global started with Tower. Tower is becoming a trend. Okay, there's 2D die cut on lamppost started, and we adopted it. So right now, everybody knowing that just putting up a text on banner on the billboard is no longer serving that way. Yes, people see it and go, how do you want to sustain and drive them magic experience and drive a memorable experience? So right now, we're going to be seeing a lot of people trying to do some different ideas in terms of mode, in terms of structural, basically in terms of the assets we design. We're going to be seeing a lot of those things coming. Environmental takeover is going to begin to happen. In fact, you can see how Diageo team have been to take up the whole what's it called, flyover and the bridge branding. So alternative advertising is what everyone is trying to do on outdoor right now to make sure that you'll be able to arrest attention and sustain the attention over time. So while technology is driving its own in terms of digitalization, the traditional formats will also be experiencing a lot of tweak and twist there and there to make sure that we arrest attention and drive the brand message.
Thank you very much, Kingsley. I think there's also a very huge role the clients would have to play because adoption is really slow from the client side. So I think it's high time we start pushing the message of location marketing to clients, getting them involved in seminars like this so they can hear them by themselves, because a lot of our clients, I know for sure, will just do the same old SafeNet execution. So I think in the near future, we need to start dragging clients to these conversations. So at this point,
Also,
thank you
please,
very much.
to add to what you just said right now, sorry to take word from you. I think just will not take the time. It's just a charge for all of us as professionals in the outdoor space. We should start seeing ourselves as billboard sellers and start seeing ourselves as OOH solution providers, right? When clients ask you, give me board here and there, you should stand up as a professional, ask the question, what is your objective? When you ask those questions, you begin to give them professional advice. And that is when they will start respecting you as an industry professional. But if you don't ask those questions, these guys begin to drop you and push you to go and give me board. Probably some of them not even know that as their bosses, as their MD have said, we need to leverage outdoor in this campaign. They will say, okay, give me your board. Some will even wake up and tell you, I want billboard. Where? They'll tell you, just your billboard. I want to see your billboards. As a professional, you're supposed to ask the client, I need your brief. Who are your target audience? Ask the right questions so that when you understand these things, you'll be able to tell the person, instead of you buying this large format of structure at this point, I think this will serve you better. This is the way your audience are being found, which is now back to your proper planning. And that's when they will start respecting you as a professional in the world. Sorry to take this, but I just wanted to just pass that message across.
Thank you very much. You're very spot on. At this point, I want to say a very big thank you to everybody who has stayed with us from beginning to this moment. And I'll be happy now to yield the mic to anybody who has a question, a comment, a contribution to the conversations before we quickly round up. Because the target is to close at exactly 5:30, so we're 11 minutes away. So I would, at this point, be happy to yield the mic to anybody who wants to make a comment, a question.
Hello.
Hello, Victor. We can hear you.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon, Victor.
Yeah, Kingsley, well done. Nice job out here. Thank you. And to the guest in-house, I say thank you also. My question is not much. In all of this, yes, artificial intelligence has come to stay and is really helping, is going to help the outdoor industry to really grow at large generally. But one thing I think we are really not addressed is what are we going to put in place in out-of-home industry that would help us when what's it called, writing, when delivering what's it called, the report, saying this is the number of people who has come to view a particular ad on either the static board or the digital board, because till date, I've come to understand that that solution has not come. When you have an ad on any particular board, you don't know the number of viewership, you don't know who sees your ad at every minute or every second in time in which that campaign is being placed out there. So I feel with the invent of AI now, how are we going to come about that solution? Because we need to start thinking about it. We need to start thinking about it. Client will just look at you and tell you, okay, if I'm putting a whole budget on this platform, please, can you give me a report of who is looking at this? I don't just want to come waste money, and you understand?
Miguel, do you want to
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll take it. Yeah. Okay. Thanks a lot, Victor, for chiming in. Yes, actually, I want to challenge that this exists. This is something that can be done. At the end of the day, it's what we were discussing earlier about audience data. We have as part, for example, of our platform, what we call proof of play reports or proof of performance, which is exactly what you're describing, which is, okay, we want to share with the advertiser exactly in a digital screen when the campaigns were played, on a static billboard in which different assets were located, and how many people got to see this. Depending on the granularity of your audience data, you can keep track. You know exactly when the campaign played in a screen, and depending on the audience data, you can know exactly how many people are in front of the screen. Let's think about the cameras, for example. Prime Media has a digital billboards over there in Nigeria with cameras facing the opposite direction. We know exactly when a campaign plays in those screens, and in theory, you have the camera recording how many people are in front of the screen at the very moment that the campaign played. And if it plays 100 times a day, once per minute, you have the video of every time it plays, how many people are in front of the screen. So technically, this is done very easily. The challenge here is the privacy situation that we discussed earlier. And I'm pretty sure this is not allowed in Nigeria either, because you are not allowed to record people in the streets and just share that as a reporting to your advertiser. But in theory, with a camera pointing the opposite direction, you know exactly when the campaign plays, how many people were in front of the screen, the dwell time, how much time were people exposed. So that sort of proof of performance, of proof of play reports are available. The only challenge is getting the audience data. If cameras are not allowed, then you can have mobile data. You can also know how many people in theory were exposed. Well, in reality, were exposed, were in that certain GPS coordinates at that specific time when the campaign was playing in that screen, or if it's a static thing, the same throughout the month, how many cell phones were in front of the screen, and you can extrapolate because perhaps not everybody has a cell phone. But it depends on the audience data. Sometimes it's a theoretical model based on traffic data or not real-time data like the cameras on mobile. But that's also typically good enough. Providing this sort of proof of performance or proof of play reports also creates transparency with the advertiser. The advertiser wants to know exactly where things were posted and where things played and how many people got to see it. The how many people relies on your audience data provider or audience data partner. You need to have some sort of audience data, be it cameras, be it mobile phone data, be it traffic data that Kingsley was mentioning earlier, and everything else. But technically, this is possible and it's done. I've seen very accurate proof of performance reports in other parts of the world where privacy is not an issue. Did we answer your question, Victor?
Okay. Do you mind I want to add to Victor?
Just let me so that I can close.
Yeah, please. Sorry to just say, Victor, there's something I just want us to know. While we're trying to improve the industry, let us not forget that we are trying as an industry. That's globally, we're trying. Let me just I question. Please, I want someone else to be able to tackle this. What I want to state. I think we're in a better position, in a better space compared to TV and radio, because while TV and radio claim that they can track and do this thing, they have the numbers. How do you tell? I ask people every day, how do you tell me who is watching the TV station at that point in time, especially for terrestrial TVs? Even for the cable TVs that you tell me that people put up and say, I know who, even if they have a technology that tells who tune into a particular channel because it's DSTV, for instance, how do you tell how many people are watching in that same living room because it's a family station? Do you get? And if you look at the radio, how do you tell people? So by the time they make these numbers and everybody needs to say outdoor doesn't have measurements. Now, what I see that is going to happen to us and it's going to help us do better in the future is that the AI is coming in. And by the time they give us more opportunity to access mobile data, you can tell, like Miguel said, who and who is first at that particular location at that point in time, right? If you geofence a particular location, you can be able to tell who and who is this. That means we are in a better position than even radio and TV by this point in time. And that just that's not my submission anyway. But no, so if you feel
I'm not sure you want to go that route with myself and Emmanuel on the call. So let's not start a conversation about.
No, but no, I want him. Emmanuel is here. Let Emmanuel come up on that. Let's see. Because we need to know where we start. No, we need to go that route. So let's see where we are.
Emmanuel, any comment, any observations, any questions?
You sure Emmanuel is still here? Okay, Emmanuel is here. Emmanuel.
Okay, so while we're expecting Emmanuel to come up earlier, I see a message from Michael. Michael is saying that the future of out-of-home seems bright because eventually problems around measurement, impact, and ultimately conversion rates. I think that is not landing, but Michael, we hear you. Thank you very much for your comments. Thank you.
So we have someone else that wants to ask something.
Felix is raising his hand. Felix, thanks for joining, and then you can unmute yourself and speak, sir.
Good evening, guys. Nonso, Miguel, and Kingsley, I want to thank you for such an awesome session. I mean, you guys have totally magnified and amplified OOH. But I'd like to say this. I think we should avoid the situation where we begin to compare mediums, OOH versus, because the very context of it is that it is an integrated marketing communication business. And we're basically looking for how we can bring the peculiarities of one medium to play complement to all the other mediums. And we can see, for instance, just the emergence of social media, for instance, and internet and mobile, and how they're beginning to play incremental role, and how AI and all of that is helping one medium versus the other. I think what we need to do is to be very clear about the strengths of OOH and the opportunities that OOH have going forward, and find a way to enable it so that OOH will be sitting on the table, and we can, of course, be very strategic partners for brands in delivering their deliverables, as well as also taking a fair chunk of the business. That's just my take, gentlemen. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Felix. I don't know if anybody has questions, comments at this point. If not, we'll be left with no option than to start winding down to keep to our commitment to time. Any more questions? We can allow one. If there's any question, any comment from anybody. Okay, I will take that as a cue to wind down. Thank you, everybody, for joining. I see a lot of industry front runners. I see Mr. Joyo on the call. I see Henry. I see Emmanuel is here. I see Mr. Solo Akua. We thank you very much for coming on board, and everybody who has joined from the beginning up to this moment. Thank you for making a date with us. We really appreciate it. And thank you very much, Miguel, for making our time out of your very busy itinerary to be here with us. Kingsley, thank you very much for the very insightful localization of the context of what we're talking about. Thank you, everybody. It was nice having you here. But before we go quickly, I just need to speak quickly to the upcoming Loma Awards. As you all know, Onwukaeme Academy is organizing the Location Marketing Awards coming up on the 28th of September at Marriott Hotel. As we all know, entries have closed. We received your entries, a whole lot of them. Our audits and our audit team is currently working on reviewing all of them, and then come back with results that are credible, very acceptable, transparent, and all of that. Miguel is also working towards being in Lagos for the awards at the time, so you can keep your questions. You can link up with him on LinkedIn. You can share his details. He's very open to have conversations and help grow the out-of-home business in the market. There's also an opportunity for you to place your ads in the event brochure, and secure exhibition space for your brand, and also partner with the Road to Loma. Is a series coming up. So for further details, you can get in touch with Kingsley or Onwukaeme, or follow us on our social media handles for updates. On that note, I would say a very big thank you to everybody, and I wish you a very pleasant weekend. Thank you very much.
Chinonso, thank you. Kingsley, thank you very much.
Thank you,
Very
everyone.
educative.
Thank you, guys. Yeah, nice one. Miguel, thank you for your time.
Thanks a lot for the invitation. It's been a pleasure. I'm really looking forward to visiting Lagos and seeing everybody in the Loma Awards and talking more face to face.
September is already here. That's next 2 months, so we're almost there. So it's gonna be. It's a wonder. In fact, it's a done deal. The program is gonna be wonderful. Like we see that's happening. It's a very big one for us. Thank you, guys. Thanks so much.
Okay,
thank you, everybody.
Thank you.